believe then there maybe a business angel forum would need to get some private angle. The problem is the problem with business angel is so many love to be a business angel because it's so sexy and it's so cool and everybody recognizes you as an investor and it gives you a role in the society. The number of really active business angels is very low. And I don't know what's the official statistic about I2B, but it's my guess, if it's 5 investments a year, that would be a big number. 5 investments for 8 million people.
Yeah, but it's a platform where every business angel can participate, and it's not really bureaucratic as it might sound. So it's a very simple procedure.
I think what the business angel needs, typically a business angel doesn't have the problem that ideas don't find the way to the business angel, because the good business angels are known for the segment where they are active, so they get addressed anyhow. Mostly when I receive the business angel pitches, I have received them through our web presence anyhow before. So just building the dialogue between the one who need an investment and the one who actually could invest, I think that's not the motivation aspect. Therefore, I was bringing up the idea of tax benefits in some way to actually make the people who do have the financial capabilities to invest. It's not the lack of opportunities. And typically you get, it's also interesting, and there's I believe some expectation management we needed. Typically you receive proposals where it's a 3-people company, they're working on a prototype, they're looking for 400 to 2 million, and they're willing to give away 5 or 6%, kind of. Right when you receive a proposal like that, you basically typically dump it because you already know that you're not going to find an agreement with them.
Okay, I would also like to say something about AWS. This is okay?
Yeah.
So because you addressed the angel network and the angel initiatives, okay, I completely agree with what you said. But I think you were also asking what AWS could improve, right, or what could be done to make this more efficient.
Not really asking, but we're interested.
So, or my opinion about it, okay? So there is a similar thing in America to AWS. It's called actually double equity fund, right? And so when you actually receive, let's say, $3 million of venture funding, right? You go and double your equity, right? So you get another funding, right? Backed up with warrants, similar model with you. The difference is that these are all private funds. So they're not governmental owned funds, right? So there's a lot of competition. So that if you raise money, you can go to 10 AWSs, right? And negotiate, and there's competition, and this is why you get a better deal, they are faster, they act more professionally. Here we have a monopoly, right? It's AWS, and either take it or leave it, doesn't matter if it's fast, slow, whatsoever, right? And also the terms, right, are not really negotiable because there's no alternative, except you go to other institutions. So in my experience, and you get a double equity program there within 2 weeks or something. It's really, really easy. It's really easy.
But if we wouldn't have AWS, we would have to learn.
Okay, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, okay? I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But I think what the really bad thing is, first of all, AWS is actually backing up investments in venture capital funds, at least it was in the early days like this. So a venture capital fund had to get approval from AWS before it could make the investment in order to get security. At least this was a few years ago like this, right? So it really slowed down the venture capital market, right? Because if you have to go to an institution again, it was slow. But of course it's great to have AWS in general, but I think some competition would hurt. Yes. For private companies.
Would be happy, let me state this, would be happy to have private competition.
No, honestly, this is...
I mean, I need to say AWS and sit and everybody else on the public grants has got a really, really substantially important role in Austria, and there is a double equity program and so on. What Daniel mentioned, I believe, which is relevant, speed obviously is relevant, and I know the problem that it needs to be an objective decision, so there needs to be a jury. The question is who is in the jury, and the few people who know about the industry are either the one who basically filed the application. So it's hard to get a good jury, I also believe. But everything that helps to speed on the process is very valuable. And another thing I agree with Reshma that there is an undercapitalization in Europe happening. And a lot of the public grants institution, and again, like, we entrepreneurs love you for that there's some money. But the problem is typically it's a spray methodology. So it's a question of the grant size is X, there will be like 20 or 30 like positive decisions, and the money is divided to. The problem I do see is like 30 companies are happy after, but 30 companies have still an undercapitalization. If there would be like a way to combine, let's say, some funding, double business angel money with public grants, with another like, sometimes it's happening like, you know, like some FFG supporting where, so basically not like supporting the one who would fail if they wouldn't get it, rather like supporting the one who can really be successful if they would get it, for the sake of having idols and success stories who basically employ interns who start to build their own companies 2 years later and to kick on the snowball effect. I believe we need the chargers, we need the...
I mean, I think in Singapore they're trying something where it's a small, it's a small island, you can make it work maybe, but, matching programs, right? They literally have a list of, if you get money from Daniel or Marcus, we will match it, right? They literally have a list of people that they'll co-invest with, and that's huge because...
And fast, because you can rely on Daniel's and on Marcus' decision, for example.
So that's happening in the Valley anyway. And if one of those super angels invests, everybody wants to join, right?
Concerning the competition, there was last fall, sometime in October, there was the first Business Angels Day in Austria in year 2009. But there's a start there, and maybe there will be something more developing there. But I think it's an important thing to have also these private initiatives, getting the people together, also showing that, and I think it's also showing to other people that this is an opportunity for them. This is kind of a professional job you do. I mean, you're a business angel, and this is what you do. While it's kind of more as a hobby, and not really as a business model for themselves. Hopefully it will change.
Okay. So question, on a per capita basis, how bad is Austria? Like, I mean, like in the US, it's a huge population, right? It's multiple more. It's easy for Austria to be small because it is just that much smaller. But I'm interested to know if anybody knows in the audience or whatever, like how quote-unquote bad we are per person.
But I have a number in mind, it's 0.06%. It's about 20th of that of Sweden.
So we have a long way to go.
Ties into the next thing is like, what's we're here because the problem's been identified. When is it okay? Like, what is the goal? Like, is it a goal when things like this don't seem relevant anymore, or when entrepreneurs are happy, or when it's like the VCs can show off that there's a lot of success that comes from here, or is there like, do you think that everyone, I guess, do you think that we should have a goal to try and move toward?
The research council said it would be perfect if Austria could reach 1% of GDP. Okay, and that's a fraction from the United States.
I have a quick question. Everybody should name the most promising 3 startups out of Europe, in your opinion.
Not your own startup, please.
Not the, not. Yeah.
3 most promising startups out of Europe.
Startups.
Okay, Marcus, go.
Why, do you want to invest?
I'm just curious.
I need to think about it. This is tough.
Okay,
Okay, another question. My name is Stefan Böck, and the question is, Marcus said that giving away 5% of its company for 2 million is not very sexy for an investor. What is there an average number you could say which is interesting for an investor? Let's say 10% for 100K or something like this from the European point of view, and maybe Daniel could say from the American point of view, it would be very interesting.
It's obviously, it depends on the company, the stage, and the potential, and then the other factors. Obviously, the question I believe is the first problem is like I in a business angel role. Actually, I try to like force me to only invest into businesses where I know something about. So it's very hard to project the success of an energy drink. I just can't do that. So the question starts with, do I know something about the business? And then do I like the guys? And obviously you build up a certain relationship where you believe they only need the money, or another way for startups, early stage startups, after a while you also figure out how much work you need actually to put into it. And this could be like zero, or this could be like a full-time job. So that also very much like influences like that aspect. And if there is a super angel investing and you're like just joining like this group of angels, you also rely basically that he's like taking off, he's like doing all the work that's necessary. As time budget as a limiting factor. In a typical, let's say there is a prototype, no traction yet, online company, 100,000 K needed. Sometimes in the newspaper, 100,000 K would mean like, wow, 30%. If you have a chance to like, and I like in some ways I like your approach because it's a very flat approach, like which is Sitcam is doing. It's hard to basically, it's more a fluffy decision process.
If you want a number, if you're raising anywhere sort of, 500K to $1.5 million, 2 million, you are starting to look at sort of 25% to 20 to 35% or something. And once, beyond that, again, the number percentages drop again. So, because you're gonna have like 4 or 5 rounds.
Yeah.
So as an entrepreneur, get out a spreadsheet, it's not hard. If you're somewhere between 10 and 30% each round, you're diluting. 4 rounds later, see what you're left with. Are you happy with that, right? So
I think you can actually really significantly increase valuation, like what he said before, to have really the product ready.
Yeah.
And ideally, well, revenue is perfect, right? Or at least showcase, right, that they have a ramp up, right? So that it's attractive, you have the viral effect, that it works.
Okay.
This is, if you can reach this point with self-funding and with friends and family, that's the way to do it, if you ask me. And then the second thing I wanted to say is, what I experienced is that American VCs are much more flexible when it comes to valuation. Because for them, valuation is not, it's not, of course it's important, but not that important. They do want to have a significant ownership, like 20% or something, like depending on the fund and on the round, right? But more importantly, there are clauses in the contracts which is called something like liquidation preference, for instance. So for everybody who doesn't know what a liquidation preference is, it means the investor puts in 1 million, you sell the company for 10 million, and if the liquidation preference is 1x, he will get back the 1 million first, and then only the 9 million will be spread. Right? So a 1x liquidation preference is actually a good deal. And during the financial crisis, I've seen deals with like a 6x liquidation preference, even with compounding interest and whatsoever. Right? Of course, they can give you any valuation. Right? Doesn't matter. If I have a great liquidation preferences from an investor's perspective, doesn't matter. Then there's also rules like downside protection for down rounds, right? That if the company raises at a lower valuation later, then there are preferred shareholder rights with preferred shares and all this stuff. So this question cannot be really easily answered. But I think it would be good. There are many websites out there I've seen. They can really read about startup tips and what are the important clauses and what is the liquidation preference and what's actually common in the market. Right? And if you actually are able to create really a hot startup, then your valuation will be higher, obviously, because there's competition. Again, we're in the competition space. Because effectively, this is the last sentence of this topic, because effectively, for me, the whole venture capital market is like, there are like a few really hot startups, and they are all chased by the venture capitalists, and then the other not hot startups are actually chasing the venture capitalists. And this is like this circle. If you somehow get into the I'm a hot startup kind of thing, then you're actually in a good shape.